in whatever position, whatever occupation, whatever social status we may be in. It means we have a simple, well-wishing heart. That's simple. Where we understand that whatever I have is divine property meant to serve. And it's only in that service, and only in the love from where that service emanates, that there can be a meaningful, purposeful, and fulfilling life. This is the simple universal principle of Bhakti. It is so relevant in the world today. We have here our dear friend and brother Shyam Sundar, who back in 1969 was living in the house of George Harrison of the Beatles and John Lennon. Mm-hmm. And he brought George to meet Srila Prabhupada, our guru. And George wanted to shave his head and just join the ashram, because he was really inspired. And Shyam Sundar witnessed Prabhupada told George that you're a Beatle, so just be a Beatle for Krishna. You're a great musician. Just use, and you're so famous, and you have so much that God has given you, utilize all these things to help other people be happy by awakening their love for God. And that is perfect bhakti. We don't have to change our position. We just have to change our consciousness. We cannot love God and exploit the resources of the environment. Because if we actually love God and we see all living beings as God's children, everyone is equally dependent on the same natural resources. Whether you're in that hotel in Dubai, or whether in your little village of Maharashtra, we're dependent on the same sunshine and the same air and the same water. Compassion is very deep. Compassion is the nature of the soul. Why? Because we're all a part of the supreme compassionate one. To make that connection, to awaken that love, is the most relevant necessity of the contemporary times and for all times. Thank you very much.
Question answer. So who would like to have question can raise their hand. We'll also be passing these blank papers to almost everyone, or you can just raise your hand. You can write, we'll pass along with the pen. So you can write your question, and then we'll pass to Garuda Prabhu. So he will read the question, and then Mother can answer. We'll have this 10-minute exercise. So let's go with the first question. We'll pass this around to everyone.
So I'm born in a Goswami family. So Tulsi Das and but my children are third generation here. So they grew up here, then I took them to India for 10 years, just came back last year. So my children are going to Dublin High School right here. Today this is just today's incident, by the way. So my daughter, who's 16 years old, she said, I'm learning world history. So every religion is being taught that this is how this whole thing started. But Hinduism, nobody is able to answer. Where does it start, right? So I was just puzzled because I myself, born in a Brahmin family, Adi Guru Shankaracharya, Goswami Tulsidas, and that's the ecosystem I come from. But I was puzzled today to answer this question. So I said to her, by the time I come back now, I will have an answer for you. My daughter, she is ready for an answer. That how do I say to her classmates, right? That you brag about so much about Hinduism, but nobody talks about it. Where does it start? Because there's always origin for something, right? Every religion, Jainism, Sikhism, Christianity, and Islam, we can tell a story. But Hinduism, I was puzzled. So I thought, let me just put this question and probably get blessings from it.
I will pray that all blessings come and find you. I believe that what the graduate theological union is trying to present to the world is a wonderful opportunity where the true principles of Hinduism, Bhakti, can be presented in the schools, in scholarly circles. And I think that's the reason why we're all here tonight. And there has been a great lack of reaching out and presenting the true principles of Sanatana Dharma according to the Vedic tradition in the colleges and the universities and the schools. It's also very important that parents imbibe these principles by words and example within the families. And this book that I wrote called The Journey Within is kind of my little contribution to try to help people understand that.
Swamiji, I have a question here for you. What do you say to an agnostic? Goodbye.
It depends on which agnostic. I'd like to tell one little story. Just, I think about a month ago, I was in Manhattan, New York City. I gave a lecture at the Rubin Museum. There was maybe 150 people in this auditorium. And after my talk, I was coming off the stage, and they told me that they were closing the museum in a half hour, and there was about 130 people standing in line for me to sign their books, and they said, you have to come immediately up the stairs because we have to close the doors. So I came off, they made that announcement. Just when I came to the bottom of the stairs of the stage, there was one man that approached me. He was probably about 60 years old. He looked very dignified. He spoke with a very eloquent tone. He said, I took a lot of interest in what you said today, but I want to tell you, I am an atheist. And I have some questions for you. I said, well, if you walk with me, we could talk until I get to the book table, but that's all the time we had. So we walked together, and he told me why he was an atheist. He said, I have seen since my earliest childhood so much hate, so much arrogance, so much conflict and division in the name of religion and God that I cannot accept religion and I cannot accept there's a God if this is what people do who follow him. And he went on and on. So we're just approaching the table. I only had a few seconds to answer.
During which you said,
I said, actually, I used to feel the same way as you. I've seen the same things. And I came to a crossroads in my life. Either I have to totally reject religion and spirituality, or there must be a common essence that's something very beautiful at the heart of all of them. And I believe that there was such a common essence. And I searched for that essence. And what I discovered in the lives of the true saints throughout history is that God is supremely beautiful, supremely sweet, supremely loving and compassionate. And that's the nature of those who love Him. Then we reached the book table. And I had to say goodbye to him. I didn't plan to say what I said, because it was, from one perspective, really inappropriate. After I said what I said, he said, I still cannot accept a God. I said, okay. I said, but now I have to go. And I shook his hand, and I said to him, God bless you. And I was thinking, why did I say that? After all he just said. And he shook my hand. And with great emotion, he responded by saying, God bless you. And then this very dignified man started to cry. He said, I have never said that to anyone in my entire life. And he concluded by saying, and it felt so good. Whether that answers the question.
That's a beautiful
I
story.
answered for one, at least one person. Agnostics are oftentimes really intelligent, thoughtful, sensitive people. And so are atheists. Oftentimes they have their reasons. But the power of satsang, the power of associating with people who have faith, who can explain things, from the perspective of a philosophy based on love and compassion, really can open the doors to people, to really seek what they're really hungry for.
are you ready?
I don't know.
Quite a few here, we won't get to all of them. Swami, you say that we've just to change the consciousness and there's no need to give up our professions. But then why did you do that? I don't recall that you gave up any professions. You just gave up hiding out in the Himalayan mountains. That's my reading of your book. But anyway, how can we use you as an example?
Could I answer by telling another story? This was some years ago. It was in Mumbai. How many of you have spoken in a college in Mumbai? Please raise your hand. You have to really be prepared. It was a college for accountants, certified accountants and chartered accountants. And it was an auditorium with about 400 people, all students and professors. And I was on the stage, and I gave a talk, kind of whatever I say, and then I asked for questions. And one man raised his hand, and I called on him. He stood up. Everyone in the room went, ooh. So I was thinking, this person is very well known in this college. He started screaming at me at the top of his lungs. He was so angry, vengeful. He said, you are a cheater. You are a hypocrite. I reject everything you have said. You have just come to mislead us. And he went on and on and on with those kind of words. And I was standing there. I need a microphone too. He said, what if everybody in the world became a Swami like you? Who would grow the food? Who would do the banking? Who would do the trading? Who would do the educating? Therefore, I reject everything you have said. He got a standing ovation. It was a tumultuous standing ovation. Students really like when a teacher gets massacred. They were howling, they were cheering, they were clapping for several minutes. I was standing there. And finally, when everything came down, they were waiting for my reply. And I closed my eyes and said a little prayer. Would you like to know what I said? Yes. I said, dear sir, what if everyone in the world became an accountant like Who would grow the food? Who would do the baking? Who would do the educating? If everyone in the world became an accountant like you, there would be a 100% unemployment rate throughout the world because no one would need an accountant. That the human social body is very similar to our own little human body. Within the body, we have many different organs and limbs. Each one has its own shape, its own color, its own function. The lungs cannot do what the pancreas does. The brain cannot do what the kidneys do. The hands cannot do what the eyes do. What is a healthy body? It's not that the heart is saying, I'm better than you, and the stomach is saying, no, no, if I don't give you food, you die. And the heart says, if I don't give you blood, you die. And the liver says, if I don't filtrate all the stuff, you all die. In a healthy body, every part of the body honors, respects, and appreciates the value of what every other part of the body does. And they know that they're interdependent on each other. And if one part of the body is having a difficulty, every limb and part of the body focuses on healing that. I told this man, we need farmers. We need bankers. We need government people. We need business people. We need accountants. And believe it or not, there's of value to little swamis like me too. I gave the example of Ramayan. Hanuman was lifting massive mountain peaks to build that bridge across the ocean. And there was a little spider kicking single grains of sand. And Ram told Hanuman, he's doing as much as you. He's doing what he can and you're doing what you can. I see the quality of the sincerity of the love. A healthy human society is when we appreciate the value of every other member of society. And not only of humans, but of the animals and of the birds. To understand everyone has a sacred purpose, potential. So instead of criticizing each other, let's try to appreciate each other and bring out the best in each other. Although I'm a little shy to tell you, when I gave that answer, I got a louder standing louder standing ovation than he did. And even he stood up and went like that.
Swamiji, this is the classic question of theodicy, which you get asked a lot. When every action in the universe is controlled by the Almighty, why does someone do wrong or bad things? See you later.
This question gives light to the very principle of love. For love to be fulfilled, there must be free will. And in the perfect creation of all living beings, Sri Bhagavan, we call Krishna, God has given all living beings free will. And in that free will, we can express the innate true desire of the heart, the soul to love, or we could choose to seek alternatives to that love. And every one of us have that freedom. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chudusam. The Bhagavad Gita explains that the one supreme being, the God of all living beings, descends into this world again and again and again throughout the ages, as our Buddha has explained so eloquently, to remind us of that love that is within us, which is the essence of Dharma, the awakening of that love. But the Lord never interferes, gives us the choice. When we associate with people who are aspiring for that love, or who have that love, that's called satsang. And through the faith we gain from that satsang, we accept sadhana, which means a spiritual practice. To tune into the frequency of love, to cultivate the treasure of that love that's within us. And through satsang and sadhana, sadachar, then we integrate the principle of that love, that compassion, in our character, in whatever we do, whoever we're with. And our greatest joy in life is to share that love. And that's the beauty of life, is we have that free will. Sarva dharanam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami vasaja. the very culmination of Bhagavad Gita. Abandon all varieties of Dharma and just surrender to me. What is that Sharanagati, surrender? In this world, surrender means defeat. But in the path of Dharma, surrender is the ultimate victory. To surrender to the will of the Supreme by our own sweet will. To harmonize God's will with whatever we do, whatever we speak, with our thoughts. That is the victory of light over darkness. The victory of the spirit self over illusion and ignorance and ego. The victory of love over the tendency to exploit. Surrender is the sweetest thing in all of creation. It's our ultimate nature. And surrender can only have that beautiful quality, and it's an expression of freedom.
This question goes like this. So I find many in this world suffer from a problem called loneliness. Is it true? If so, how to overcome it?
Or the Jivatma, the eternal soul. The loneliness is forgetfulness of our relationship with the Supreme Soul. And in that forgetfulness, we also disconnect ourselves from the souls of others. We're all looking for love. That's our inherent tendency. There's a saying that things could give some sense of fulfillment to the mind and senses, but things can never give fulfillment to the heart. Only to love and be loved can give pleasure to the heart. And actual happiness is a state of heart. It's not just a state of the flickering mind or the senses. We're all looking to love and be loved. Because it's the soul's nature to love. When we repose that love in physical things, in emotional things, it has beginning and end. It's very vulnerable, and we're subjected to loneliness. I remember in the 1960s, growing up in Chicago, I heard a song. Can I sing it for you?
Yes, sure.
I'm not going to sing it because I don't want to cause too much laughter. But I'll recite some of the words. It's a blues song. Ready? It was more alert than any other part of my life. If you have a headache, a little pill will do. If you have a backache, a little rub will do. But if you have a heartache, there's nothing you can do.
I'd like to hear you sing it.
In the bathroom after. But it's a reality. The deepest expression expression of pain really is a broken heart, a loneliness. Because that's where the greatest happiness can be, and it also makes us vulnerable. That's where the greatest suffering can be. So in the Path of Bhakti, we address the problem of loneliness through trying to reconnect to our own spiritual relationship with Bhagavan, with Sri Krishna. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasvika. That the name of the Lord is not different than the Lord. Nam Nama Kari Bahuda Nija Sarvashamis. That my dear Lord, in this prayer of Lord Chaitanya, you have many names that you have revealed throughout the ages. And in each one of these names you are present. And your love is present. We can connect with that love through the chanting of your names, through our prayers, through our spiritual practice. We could tune in again to God's love and be an instrument of that love. And to the degree we really tune into that love, we develop, we awaken real love for other living beings. I'm going to tell you one little story. Some of my friends, they were in Varanasi, and they're animal rights activists from New York. And they happened to see a pathetic scene. There was a three-legged dog who looked really hungry. And she was hobbling around, and she looked so pathetic that my friends wanted to feed her. So they ran to the end of the block where they could get some bread, some roti, and they got a whole lot of it to feed the dogs. And suddenly there was a pack of dogs around them. And those dogs really were hungry. And they were fighting each other to get toward the bread. And they would like put it on, they'd snap and take the bread and eat it. And cut for another one. And they were all fighting to get close to the bread. And they would give him bread. They happened to see something that really mystified them. Behind this crowd of growling, fighting dogs, there was another dog. And he was just very humbly waiting his turn. And when he came, he just looked up with really glossy, humble, grateful eyes. And they took bread, and he very carefully put it in his, took it with his mouth, but didn't chew on it, didn't even bite it. He just carried it and trotted away. They were thinking, what is this dog doing? They followed him. They followed him about a block. And there was this cart, big cart with vegetables and grain and various other items were being sold. And this dog went under the cart. And they went to look under the cart. And there was that three-legged dog. She was a mother. She was out looking for food for her little puppy, who was snuggled up to her, but she couldn't find any. And the puppy, tiny little puppy, was snuggled under her mother, three-legged mother, was joined by this other dog. And he placed the bread in the mouth of the puppy. And the puppy ate it. And the mother dog, and maybe he was the father, they just looked on with so much affection. Although they were obviously as hungry as the puppy. That propensity to love is in everyone. wherever there's life. And to the degree we can express that love. Srila Prabhupada, our Guru, explained that the more love expands, the deeper the fulfillment is. When we just love ourselves, that's good. We should love ourselves because we're part of God and we're sacred and we're holy in our essence. But so is everybody else, so we can't be arrogant. The problem was when our love for ourselves has that vulnerability where we have to compare ourselves to others. But if we actually find the real love within us and our own true, great, unlimited value of who we are, then we'll appreciate that in everyone. Service to our family, service to our friends, service to our nations, service to all living beings, service to the environment. When you water the root of the tree, when we awaken love of God, then our service goes to everything and everyone. So to the degree we're disconnected, that lonesomeness can be there. In giving, we receive. We can't always control how other people are going to treat us, but we have control how we're going to treat others.
So I have a last question for you. I think you'll like this one too. These are all good questions. I enjoy this one. With Hindus, there are so many beliefs that they believe with conviction. It is difficult to connect with them. I keep quiet after some time and find it very difficult to have the conversation. How can I find strength to continue the conversation?